Hello everyone, this is Jose. Welcome to the Joy of Fish Keeping. A company emailed me recently and asked me if I would make a video and review their products. They are phosphate removal pads for the FX6, Fluval FX6 canister filter. I told them I would, and this for me would be an opportunity to share some information and discuss a very important topic in fish keeping, which is phosphates. But I figure that it would make no sense to discuss phosphate phosphate removal without discussing what phosphates are and what they play, and what roles they play in an aquarium and to our hobby. So we're going to talk about phosphate and hopefully clear up for something. For some of you, maybe new information. For some, maybe a review. For some, I know that already, so I got this down. But thank you, and for all those of you, depending where you are today, I hope you've had or are having a great holiday. Merry Christmas to all, and whenever you hear this video, if it's past Christmas. This was made on Christmas Eve day. I'm at my sister's house currently in Pennsylvania. Okay, so we're going to talk about phosphates. Again, phosphate. Sorry if this is going to get a little geeky, maybe science geeky. For some of you who may be seeing this or looking at me for the first time, I am a nurse of 40 years, and after nursing, I finished a biochemistry major in college. So this is kind of rehashing old information and science. It was kind of fun going back to those days, which was many moons ago, but this is kind of a refresher for me, and for some of you, just bear with it if it gets a little bit science. For some of you, also maybe a review, or you may have seen this way back then whenever you study science in high school or college. Phosphates or phosphorus. A lot of the time, phosphorus and phosphates are used interchangeably. They're related, but they're not the same thing. Phosphorus is one of the many elements that make up our world. I'm putting up on the screen the periodic table. This is all the elements, all chemicals, gases, etc. Some of you may remember this from science classes if you did those kind of sciences where this was discussed. But this is the periodic table. Phosphorus is one of the elements. It's a single element, and it is shown circled on the periodic table. And now phosphorus is a compound, meaning made up of more than one element. It's a compound. It is actually an ion, which is negative charge particle, which I will discuss a little bit further down in the video. So the phosphate ion is made up of 3 oxygen atoms and 1 phosphor, and they bounded in a specific way, which I'm not going to discuss too much here. This is more for some other chemistry lesson. Structure formula for the phosphate ion. It's 1 phosphorus molecule bonded to 4 oxygen molecules. 1 of the oxygen is double bonded to the phosphorus, and the 3 other oxygens carry a -1 charge. So the phosphate ion has a total -3 charge, which you can see on the other formula. The molecular formula for the phosphate ion, you can see is 1 oxygen, 1 P, 4 oxygen with the subscript 4 underneath, and on the right upper hand corner it has a -3. That makes it an ion. It has a charge which is a -3 charge. So the ion, as you know, positive and negative attract. And you take 2 magnets, a positive side and the next side, you put them together, they come together. So any compound that has a negative and a positive charge will attract others and make new compounds. Ions. We have positive ions and negative ions. Positive ions, they call them cations, and negative ions, they call them anions, right? So phosphorus is an anion. It has -3 charge from the oxygens, as I explained. I'm sorry this is getting a little bit boring or something, but just bear with me for a few more seconds. So why is this important? Because phosphorus alone does not occur much in nature, but again, just bound to other things. There are many, a lot of these ions are very reactive, and they look for other particles that have the opposite charge so they can bind together. For example, in the aquarium hobby, we use sodium chloride. Chloride has a negative charge, sodium has a positive charge. They bind together, they form sodium chloride, which is common table salt, or the salt that we use in aquariums. Potassium chloride, which is a salt substitute for people cannot ingest sodium, as in cardiac disease. So that's another compound that is formed by two ions coming together, potassium and the phosphate ion. So there are many others in nature. Sodium phosphate is another inorganic compound. When I say inorganic, I'm not organic. I'm referring to pure science, and not in the sense of organic as it's being used today, again, with diet fads and so on, organic this, organic that. I'm just referring to any compounds that contain carbon are considered organic. Organics as far as containing any life forms, plants, animals. Sodium phosphate, it's another compound joined by two ions. It's used a lot in food processing and as a preservative. So some of your fish food may contain phosphate that are used as preservatives. In nature, the phosphate ion reacts with other ions to form other compounds that are very important and vital to life functions. Often you hear of an electrolyte, and what is an electrolyte? Well, as I said before, ions are positive or negatively charged particle, and some very important electrolytes that are vital to life. Potassium, sodium, magnesium, and calcium are the most important electrolytes for life. The bicarbonate ion, chloride ion, and phosphate ion are very important electrolytes for body functions. Phosphorus, the element, we find it in the aquarium attached to carbon molecules that are found in living things such as plants and our fish. When we hear organics, in science at least, not as it relates to diet and organic fads and this and that, refers to any other molecules that attach in living things to carbon molecules. Usually in science, when you hear the word organic, usually it means coming from living things and associated with the element or elemental carbon. Test kits only test for inorganic phosphates. So we're only testing for phosphates for part of the total phosphate in your aquarium. Since we cannot test for organic phosphate, the kits again only test for inorganic phosphate compounds. What does phosphates mean to us in the hobby? Phosphate is a nutrient and it's necessary in small amounts for normal growth and many biological processes. So phosphate in the aquarium in excess amount can be a reason for cloudy water, among many other causes that can cause cloudy water. It does not, high phosphate does not directly affect your fish. Indirectly it does, because it can cause of excess nutrients in the water. As you may or may not know, it can cause excess algae growth. Algae will outcompete your plants, and it will outcompete your fish for oxygen. They consume a lot of oxygen, they consume a lot of the excess nutrient. Excess phosphate in your aquarium for saltwater people. I'm not one of those guys. Hopefully when I grow up, I'll keep a saltwater aquarium. The SPS coral, that's small polystony, which is a polyps. Many of these polyps form together to form some of your corals, the SPS corals. It prevents hardening or calcifications of the corals. So I think phosphate is probably more important in the saltwater hobby than it is in freshwater hobby. What can we do to control the phosphates in the aquarium? Check your food sources. Many foods are higher in phosphate content, so you may want to change the food that you feed, one that contains lower phosphates. Water changes, frequent, your regular water changes is one way to control your phosphate too. Check the water source, your local water. New York City water, I found out recently that they do add phosphates to your water. Phosphate will bind copper and will bind lead, which are harmful to health. It would bind them so they don't leach out of the pipe. So it will bind them to make water safer for drinking. So just check your water source. For example, in my area, I tested the water is 1.99 ppm parts per million of phosphate, just starting from the tap. Your normal phosphate level in the tank should be from 0.02 to 0.1. So we are way over the limits of where the phosphate level should be. I will be in another video. I will be checking for phosphates using a HANA instrument. It's for low level phosphate. So it reads from 0 to 2.5. Dying matter in your plant, like plants or dead animal, dead fish, or any other living things you have in your aquarium, that can cause your phosphate levels to rise. Fish waste, regular tank maintenance and cleaning and removal of algae. It's also helpful to lower your phosphates levels. One other thing that can help control your phosphate levels is any kind of phosphate absorbing material. There are many products out there that can be useful. I will be testing phosphate removal pads that, as I said initially at the beginning of the video, that the company had contacted me to test one of their products for the Flubal FX6. So I will be testing those phosphate removal products. You can see in a video to follow with the results from it. So I just started testing today. I added it to the filter, and we'll see what it is now. Phosphate, at some point early on, I had an issue with early on in one of the tanks. I had an issue with the blackbeard algae, and there may have been multiple things, excess nutrients. So phosphate was one of the things that I was aiming to control. Because I did have high phosphate level. My current phosphate in the tank after 1 week. Remember, I'm starting 1.99 already phosphate in my tap water. I tested at 2.5 phosphate currently, which is the maximum that this HANA instrument will read. So again, it'll read from 0 to 2.5. I'm at 2.5. I could try to get another reader, which will make no use having it, for high range phosphate, which could read beyond that point. But again, that would be useless to have it. But I know it's at some point over that, but I don't know what it is, but we're going to find out. Hopefully this wasn't too boring, but maybe just a review or maybe new information if you did not know much about phosphate. But it will be, if you can control it, you could probably, maintaining a balance, as you keep hearing this in the aquarium hobby. There's multiple factors: your load of nutrients, your load of fish, your regular maintenance and water changes. These are all things that you can use to keep your fish healthy. So thank you again for listening, and for bearing with me through sometimes not necessarily fun topics. Can get a little bit on the boring side sometimes, and you have to listen to a little bit of science or too much of it if this is not your interest. Thank you so much, and thank you for watching. If you have not done so, please subscribe, like, share, and push the notification bell. Thanks for watching.